Yes, yes, yes. Looking at greatness, look at the best. Look at the belt that is under my chest. I am your host, Keith, Champ, Creed, and you are listening to Brotivation Sports on Fox Sports Radio, 1340 AM. Wow. What can we say about the past fight weekend? I mean, you don't have too many times where this occurs. In Las Vegas, you had on Friday, Ring of Honor. And then once again in Las Vegas, you had UFC 202, Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz, the rematch. Saturday night in New York City, you had NXT at the Barclays Center. And then on Sunday, you had SummerSlam. If you are like myself, a combat sports aficionado from boxing, pro wrestling, UFC, you had a pretty impactful and pretty exciting weekend. And, you know, the highlight of the weekend, if you want to pick the crown jewel of combat sports, you know, there's always been this debate, whether it's boxing, whether it's UFC, whether it's WWE, sports entertainment in general, because all of them are sports entertainment. Just so you guys know, you know, if you want to see real fights, commit crime and go to Rikers Island. You know, but if you want to see a sports entertainment fight with rules and regulations and judges, sometimes that can be good, sometimes that can be bad. We'll talk about that. You go to a fight. You go to UFC. If you like have storylines and narratives, you go see WWE. If you want to see something like a fight that you would highly anticipate, that you would enjoy, don't go to boxing because you're not going to get any satisfaction from that. But we'll get to boxing after we go and talk about Diaz McGregor 2. Now, for those of you that follow Brotivation Sports, you've seen me on my smart money picks. And right now, going into the weekend, I was 7-1. My co-host, Ava Fiore of Cleats and Cleavage, she's not here right now. She's on special assignment. She lost the bet. She's 0 for 2 against me. Overall, I am 8-1 with my UFC smart money picks. She picked Robbie Lawler, and she picked Nate Diaz. I picked Tyron Woodley. What up, Ty? And I picked the notorious Conor McGregor. Even though they had Nate at plus 100, he was the underdog. A lot of the money shifted to him. You needed to bet a little bit of extra if you wanted to win on Conor. But for this one, it wasn't more so. It wasn't about, you know, betting or gambling or anything. It was just something that, you know, that I saw. It was something about the night, something about the environment, something about the rematch, and then eventually it will be something about the money. But I looked at the first fight, and Nate Diaz was plus 400, I believe. I knew he was going to win the first fight. I just had this gut feeling because you can't move up and weight like Conor McGregor did, even though he walks around at like 169, 171. You can't move up and fight a naturally bigger man who walks around at 190 on short notice. You can't fight someone that has the ability that Nate Diaz has and the diverse tool set that Nate Diaz has on 10 days notice. I don't care how good you are. Now, you can beat him if you have a full training camp, if you watch some video and you have an applicable strategy, which is what we saw that Coach Kavanaugh applied for what Conor had to do to escape with the victory. Now, we did our keys to victory, and, you know, we played around a little bit with, my boy. And in the end, you know, I said the winner will be the notorious Conor McGregor. And I have a knack for these kind of things. Now, I will admit that sometimes I have the caveat of talking to the fighters, talking to their trainers, talking to the friends, talking to the managers, because that's the type of relationship that I have. You know, although I am in a radio station, although, you know, I may be on television every once in a while, and, you know, this sports entertainment thing is what I do. It's just what I cover. It's what I contribute. You know, I'm more so of a person that just hangs around, have general conversation, and, you know, I can get a feel of what's going on inside the head of the competitor, whether it's a combatant in boxing or whether it's a combatant in, mixed martial arts fight. The preparation that it takes to get ready for a fight is different from the preparation that it takes to get ready for a basketball game, to get ready for a football game, to get ready for any other athletic endeavor where someone is not literally trying to kill you or separate you from your senses. And when you have these conversations, it's a very delicate time. Egos are on high, emotions are high. I mean, look at Nate and Conor throwing water. They're throwing water bottles at each other like kids in a playground. But that's what happens when, there are high stakes involved. And think about it. If you're going to have a fight, I'm pretty sure my listeners have had a fight in elementary school, high school. At some point, I would at least hope you had a fight. Brotivation rule number 942. A man should have a fight once a year just to see if he still has it. Just to know if he could defend himself or defend his woman, defend her honor. You got to have a fight at least once a year. I don't care if it's for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Dave, what do you think about that? You think a man should have a fight? At least spar, slap box. We used to do that as kids. You got to do something, And when you have that, just in a schoolyard with everyone watching, there's a lot of pressure. So can you imagine the eyes of the world, multiple countries looking at you? And if you're Conor McGregor, you talked a whole lot of trash, And now you got to live it up. You got to back it up. You got to show everyone that you are who you said you were. The first fight, not so much. Going into the second fight, I like the lead up. Me, I'm a foreplay kind of guy. I like the lead up to it. I like the chase. I like the pursuit. I like the courtship. You got to have that. You got to have the people buy in. And before the water bottle incident, not a lot of people were buying in because they thought that Nate was going to walk away with it because it seemed like he walked away with the first fight so easily, so effortlessly. And, I kind of thought that it would be difficult. And here's what I do. I'm going to give you a little inside information. When you look at these fights, if it's a rematch, even if it's the initial bout, you have to look at each guy's strategy. You have to look at each guy's, strengths and weaknesses. And one of the things I thought about was, okay, if I am Conor McGregor and I am fighting a man that is about 2 to 3 inches taller than me, that has maybe about 2 to 3 inches reach on me, that is about going to come into the fight maybe 15 pounds heavier than me, that has a supreme wrestling and a grappling and jiu-jitsu game better than mine. There's nothing that I could have learned in 4 months that would get me to the world-class level to where Nate Diaz is. What could I do utilizing my strengths to win this fight? First, I would have already known that I'm not knocking him out. There was no way that Conor's going to knock out Nate Diaz. That's not going to happen. So I wouldn't look at a way to knock him out. I'm not going to out-grapple him, so I'm not going to the floor. So what Conor had to work on, takedown defense. Now, that is something that you can pick up in a 4-month span. Learning how not to get on the ground. And this comes from a MMA practitioner. There's been amateur fights that I've had, and I know that the guy that I'm facing is like a superior jiu-jitsu player, or judo player, grappling expert. And, I'll stick and move. And when we get by the cage, I'll put my hand, I'll grab the cage. I'm not going to lie. I'll grab the cage. Dave, I'm not trying to hit the floor, Dave. What's the ref going to do? What are you going to do? Give me a warning? You give me one warning. Okay, all right, that's a freebie. All right, then guess what? Most referees, they'll give you a second warning, right? Second warning, he said, next time, I'm going to take a point away. Okay, so now I know I got 2 chances to grab the cage, but in those 2 opportunities, I got to light his ass up. I got to stick and move. And that's what Conor McGregor did. He stuck, he moved, he bobbed, he weaved. He got in some serious exchanges, and the engagement in the first round, the first and half of the second round, you really thought that Conor had a chance of putting Nate Diaz away. But in typical Diaz brother fashion, they start off slow, they steady wins the race, and then they turn up, and Conor gassed out. So I'm assuming at this point, all of you have watched, the fight, and you saw how it played out. So we'll just take a look at the end result. And when you look at the scores, some people think Nate should have won the fight. Some people believe that the decision was justified and Conor won the fight. Dave, did you see the fight? What'd you think? Who'd you think won? You thought Conor won? Okay. There's a lot of people online, on Twitter, on Instagram. They didn't necessarily complain about who won the fight. What I heard a majority of the engagement that I had on social media, or that I read the social media engagement, they were just happy that it was an exciting fight. It was just listen, UFC has had they've had a tough time bringing in an audience outside of their core demographic for pay-per-views, right? Conor McGregor, he's just one of these guys that he has the total package. He can talk trash, he can back it up in the ring. He obliterated all of the opposition. He felt that he needed to go up and challenge himself, to which he did. And Nate Diaz was the perfect foil. Nate by no means is his charisma and his swag and his energy and his vibe and his flow, it's the total opposite of the spectrum, to Conor McGregor. But it fits so perfectly because Nate's not the guy that's going to come up with colorful things to say. He's as a matter of fact as you come, straight directly to the point. And what happened during this road to the fight, he started to open up a little bit. I've been in places with Nate and his brother Nick, and if you are in a party, or you're on the mats, or if you're in just a regular social environment where there's a few people, you can communicate with Nate, you can communicate with Nick the same way that Dave and I are communicating right now. They're I won't say that they're poets or anything like that, but they can communicate their point. They can talk about their point. They can elaborate. They can enunciate. Everything's cool. But when you put them in the spotlight with the camera in a room of 100, 200, 300 people, then there's a little bit of a social anxiety. Every athlete deals with a certain degree of a social anxiety. It's just a matter of how they handle it. You take a guy like Deion Sanders, I'm pretty sure that when the cameras come on, he's slightly nervous, but it doesn't impede his progress and it doesn't stop him. Actually, he rises to the occasion. A guy like Conor McGregor, you put him in the gym, he's able to perform. You put some lights and cameras in front of him, he's able to elevate and perform. That's what Nate did the first fight. That's what Conor did the second fight. And in my estimation, there wasn't a winner or a loser. Everyone on that card, everyone that watched, and the sport of mixed martial arts and the fight league of UFC, they won. They won.